think you need to know who you're entering into, who you're entering to that space with. You need to know the traditions of that space, the cultures of that space. Is this space safe for you to enter into? Is this space empowering for you? And if it's not, then you really need to think about whether or not that's the space you want to enter into. But you do that through discovery. There has to be a sense of curiosity and knowing that I want to know more about the space that I potentially will enter into. And so you have to go in and you have to learn and understand and seek to understand the space that you're seeking to enter into.
When you're new to a space, I would say one of the factors that really helps you get to know the city or the town that you're living in is to find a place to live that allows you to get to the real heart and soul of that space. So I would recommend finding a place that's walkable, bikeable. Think about your own modes of transportation and what that looks like in the new place where you're living.
I think one of the things that we can do when we enter a new space is observe. Don't be afraid to be yourself, but definitely take some time to observe, ask questions, and take opportunities for learning and growth. Loyola does a really good job of, like I said, creating spaces to be able to talk about issues that are germane to our immediate community. And so wherever you go next, try to get hooked up in those sorts of situations where you can learn about the place that you're going, where you can talk to new people. And I think you'll find that that's how you find the community, right? That before you can be sort of part of a community, you have to get to know them and they have to get to know you. It's sort of a trust rapport building situation. So I would say take some time to observe, take some time to learn, and then see where you might want to situate yourself.
When you're settling into a new place or a place that you're returning to, or maybe a place that you're continuing in, being engaged politically and actively as a citizen is really important. One of the biggest things within that is to change your voting address. Just do it. It might feel like a big task, but it's so important because you don't want to have to deal with it when the elections come up and you realize you're addressed to vote somewhere else. So you can do that easily by still engaging with Loyola Votes in TurboVote. So just change your address there and you'll get connected to all the information you'll need to be able to vote in your new place of residence.
And then once you know and you see that the safest space, this space is safe, and you see that it's an empowering space, then you can begin to embrace and engage in ways that will be helpful, healing, restorative, empowering, as I said before, and all of the other things that go along with being a part of community.
So community means intention. It means allowing yourself to follow before you think you can lead. Let this be known that in life you're going to need others. It's imperative and you shouldn't run from it. So understand who you want to be in a community, and allow yourself to go with that intention. And that's what community means to me.
Community for me is a support. It's a support that I didn't know I needed and I didn't take advantage of. I think being a first-generation college student, being an immigrant to this country, I was sort of told by my parents, you need to sort of do things on your own. You need to work on your own. You need to work harder than everybody else. And so I had a really difficult time asking for help. What I've noticed is that the more that I ask for help and ask for support, the more that I can grow in that community. So I think it's sort of mutually beneficial. It's symbiotic in a way. The more that I need others, the more that I can grow with them as well.
Yeah, community I define as a space of human beings that gather together in solidarity and unity, that care for one another, that provide support and strengthen and empower each other. It's a space not necessarily framed by any particular structure, but it's a way of being, and it's a way of being with each other. And so I always say that true community is beloved community. And when I say compassion, I really mean that compassion is, if you break the word down, calm means with, passion means to suffer or to be passionate and intense about. So either you suffer with or you celebrate with, and you hope for the best of each person that you're in community with. It's something that transcends self. I think the first step to fostering community is to discover that space that you're entering into. And how do you do that? You do it through the power of story. The power of story is the way to build authentic relationships. If I know who you are, if I know your story, if I know how your experiences and how you live your life and seek first to understand and then to be understood and share my story and we embrace one another. When you know a story, when you know the story or the narrative of the person that you're in community with, that's what builds it. Community is really, at the end of the day, relationships. And when you have relationships with one another that are deep, that are authentic, that are intimate in a way that you share and you, again, operate in a space of adjacency and companionship, and you know that I'm going through this with you as a friend, then you are building community. You're building those relationships and you're building that opportunity.
The first step to building friendships, I believe, is to figure out what is it that you're interested in, what do you want to do, how do you want to spend your time, and who do you want to spend your time with.
Self-reflection is really important. Get to know yourself. Really reflect on your values. Think about what's most important to you, what gets you out of bed in the morning, what you want to fall in love with, and then go find people who share those values. I think one of the biggest challenges for me has been my tendency to work really hard, and that can result in getting lost on the hamster wheel at times. I think the other challenge that comes to mind is a tendency maybe to play it safe and rely on my already well-established friendships and relationships rather than taking the risk to explore and expand my friendship network.
Try not to get stuck in the same things that you've always done, because there will be different seasons of your life. And I think that comes with new hobbies, learning new things, and even new people that may not be what you consider community because they're not like you, but can provide and sustain you during that season of your life.
Understanding that patience is key. You'll eventually meet people, and it is so hard to be by yourself after you've been surrounded by so many of your friends, acquaintances, your peers. But like, there's growth in being alone. You're not lonely. There's growth in being alone. And so when you have that time period, understand first how you can be an attribute to someone else's life and what you need. Because when you do start a friendship, you don't want to put your own expectations on someone else.
Before you even start thinking about who am I going to make friends with and where am I going to go, I think you want to think about what community means to you, what kinds of friendships are you seeking. I don't expect that everybody's going to have the answer, but I think that you'll find when you graduate from Loyola that you're going to have different answers and different needs and different expectations than you probably had on campus. When you graduate, you might be thinking about, I want a romantic partner, or I want to maintain a relationship that I've been in. So that's an important point to think about. You also are going to be very career-minded, and so some of your community should be about your career area, and so it would be about mentors.
I think the first step to connecting with others in a new community when it's in a new region is understanding how do you want to feel in that space. Have you researched the place before you went? Whether that's through the socials, but let's say you don't even have social media, right? How can you connect? Go on Google. Understand what's popular in the area. If you're there for classes, get to know your classmate. If you're there for your job, understand that you can be friendly with your coworkers without being friends, and that's okay. But trying to have that feeling of being welcomed And those are some tips that I would say to start finding community in a new region.
So think about what you're interested in and find ways to connect with that in your new space. If that means going outdoors, check out the parks. See if there are ones that have hiking trails or just big trees to sit under. I remember I would spend hours after work just walking over to the park near my house, sitting under the tree and reading or writing as a way to just decompress from my day, see the people around me, and there were times when I connected with people and made friendships that didn't necessarily last a long time, but they got me through that first initial year.
So, what happens when you're ready? Let's look at your neighbors. If you're living by yourself, if you move to a new city, if you're home, the same neighbors you left when you went to school are probably not the same people who they are now. So, go on walks, get to know your neighbors. When I say use socials, who is hanging out where? Understanding who you can connect with on social media.
So one of the things that I like to do to sort of maintain those relationships is to make sure that every once in a while I'm reaching out. It doesn't have to be a big, long conversation. There doesn't need to be something really amazing or important to share, but just to check in with each other.
One of the things that I think is really cool about the day and age that we live in is that there's social media, there's email, there's texting, there's Instagram, Facebook, that really helps us keep us together and keep us connected. I do also believe, though, that human connection is what we really, really seek and what we really, really need.
So here's what I've done to help maintain the friendships after college. 1, create a calendar. Listen, we're busy. Productive? Yeah, we're going to use productive. We're productive in our daily lives. So make a calendar to schedule to have time with your friends, to talk with your friends, to check in. Number 2, don't cancel them if there's no response, all right? Give time. People will respond. For me, I don't talk to my friends every day. That's okay. But I will show up and keep my word when you what? When you schedule that time on your calendar. So don't assume that they're just not responding to you, that they're not your friend. They're just probably doing some things in their own life. Number 3, how you kept your friends in college? Sometimes it was because you were around them all the time. When you grow up, conversations need to have meaning. The bare minimum doesn't exist anymore. So when you're talking, really ask how they're doing, because they'll remember. And when you say you're going to be there for them, be there for them. All right? People grow, conversations need meaning, and that's how you can maintain your friendships after college.